Welcome to Fairy Tale Access, where the head fairy's quest is to prove that fairy tales do exist in actual time rather than once upon a time. Together, we will unravel the heroes, young and old, who turn dreams into reality. These are the people who still believe in happily ever after. The discoveries will bend even our most cynical non-believers into believing in fairy tales. Hi, welcome to Fairy Tale Access. Today, I am excited to introduce you to Jack Connor from Austin, Texas, with his new series, The Atomic Sea. Hi, Jack, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. This book was epic. So tell me about the adventure. Where did you get inspired to write about the Atomic Sea?
Well, the Atomic Sea has been called Jules Verne meets H.P. Lovecraft on acid, and so there's a wide range of genres and styles that I was influenced by that led to the creation of the Atomic Sea, and it all started as I was writing a comic book. And the comic book was heavily inspired by Mike Mignola, Hellboy, the Hellboy guy, and so I had finished that comic book, and I was about to start another comic book, and of course I had written many novels and stuff, but so I was primarily a novelist, but I was inspired by this one image I had in my head of a group of men in antique diving suits with the big brass helmets standing on a ship at sea with lightning coming off of the water and holding harpoons. That was the image I had in my head for this comic that I was going to develop. And then I thought, that's a really great image. Let me think about that and work on that for a while. And I did. And that became the Atomic Sea. And the Atomic Sea itself is very exciting to me. It's this big, it's an ocean. And lightning comes off of it. It boils and bubbles. All the creatures inside the Atomic Sea are mutated and strange. If you eat food, unprocessed seafood from the Atomic Sea, you will become mutated or you'll die. You could become a fish person or a squid person or whatever. So the Atomic Sea, when the novel starts, has existed for 1,000 years, and the sea has mysteriously changed. Before then, it was a normal sea, and this was a relatively normal world. And over the last 1,000 years, the world has transformed because of this crazy sea. And so it's a big, sprawling adventure, and it's a way to explore this transformed world. It's unlike any fantasy or science fiction novels that I'm aware of, but you could compare it to steampunk a little bit. There's some steampunk elements, a lot of zeppelins, but it's an industrial world. It's the technology level is akin to World War II, 1930s era technology, which is, of course, is the pulp era. I don't know in Australia if y'all had the pulp era, but in the 1930s America, that was the age of, the Shadow and, Conan and, all the great old pulp stories. And that's, a lot of that influenced the Atomic Sea. And, of course, Lovecraft. So, yeah.
Wow.
So it's just a fusion of various things that I put together. And, it's an epic tale. It's an epic science fiction, epic fantasy. It takes place over, a period of time. And there's a cast of characters and a lot of terrain that it covers. And anyway, it's got an epic scope. It's not just a small adventure in a weird world. It's an epic fantasy / science fiction novel or series.
Definitely. How many are in the series?
There are 9 books in the series.
Wow. So tell me about Dr. Francis Avery. How did you come up with this character and all the things that happened to him along the way?
Well, Dr. Avery is our main character, and he is a doctor aboard a whaling ship. on the atomic sea, and he has lost his wife and his daughter to the war that is currently being waged. And I should tell you that during the time the novel takes place, there has been a big world war that has been going on for a few years, equivalent to the scale of World War II. And the evil empire that is waging this war is called Octung, 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 and which sounds like something else, but that was a total accident. Anyway, so there's this evil empire of Octung that has some connection to the atomic sea and is using technology far in advance of all the other nations that it is making war on, and it is winning the war. And it's the proverbial evil empire that's cast a shadow on the world and is about to win. And our heroes must somehow find a way to defeat them. And Dr. Avery, who has lost everything to this war, is serving as a doctor aboard a whaling ship. And his country is called Ganesa, which is a small, peaceful country on the coast. And whaling is a big thing in this world because the hot lard of the whale can power some of the machines that defend Ganesa from Octung. And, of course, all the creatures in the sea have become mutated and strange by the atomic sea. And so the hot lard has special properties. And anyway, so they are on this whaling ship when a beautiful woman, naked and untouched by the sea, not tainted or mutated or diseased, she is drawn from the mouth of a whale that they have killed. And a giant mutated evil whale. Don't feel bad for the whale. Anyway, so she is drawn from the mouth of this whale and brought on board the ship. Of course, she's comatose. She's not responsive, and she becomes the ward of Dr. Avery, and right. he has to nurse her back to health. And along the way, he finds out that she is the only one that can stop Octung, but she's going to need his help to do it. And there's spies and all sorts of stuff that's going to, serve as a danger to them.
Right. I like the way you weave different elements into it, like reverse discrimination, reverse gender discrimination. That was good. And the way that they had met people along the way that went on the journey with them. But you also covered loss really well, like the real effects of war.
Well, that's important. I mean, the story needs to have real stakes, and war is a big thing, obviously. And it would be irresponsible to cover a world war and not depict it in as, realistic and grim a manner as possible. And and these are, our heroes have been suffering the effects of this war, and that has been ground on for years. And they have all lost somebody, or their lives have been affected by the war. And they are, all of them trying to recover. And in a way, this adventure is their way to deal with that and to make some peace and to do something to make some impact on the war. And
definitely. So you made the New York Times bestseller list. What did that feel like?
Oh, that was great. That is awesome. That is an epic moment. And also USA Today bestseller list.
Oh, wow.
And so, that is something that I will cherish forever. I hope it happens again someday.
What did you do to celebrate?
It was a few years ago. A lot of champagne was involved. Yeah.
That's
great. My wife and I were very, very happy when we went out on the town.
Definitely deserve it. It's a really great, twisted, gruesome story, but I really couldn't put it down.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it does. It is gruesome in part. Absolutely, it has a lot of horror elements to it. I mean, it's a fusion of fantasy and science fiction and horror and dystopian and steampunk and it definitely has a strong horror element to it, especially a Lovecraftian horror element. We're dealing with a more of a cosmic sort of horror, and that permeates the story. But it is, it is an adventure novel, and an adventure series. And I wouldn't, it's a little different from reading Lovecraft. Lovecraft is all about the doom, and the characters in a Lovecraftian story are rarely able to defeat the evil. At least, they're not able to permanently defeat the evil. And in an adventure novel, the heroes need to be able to affect things. You can't have a Lord of the Rings or Star Wars and not have the heroes have a chance to defeat the evil.
Right.
And so a true Lovecraftian story wouldn't work for a grand epic adventure because you have to have some hope. And in a true Lovecraftian tale, there would be no hope because you're doomed. Cthulhu's coming, and that's all there's to say.
Well, you were really good at twisting us into these hopeless situations where we were just like, okay, wait, I got to read 10 more pages. Or I have to read another chapter. I'm almost there. I have to see what happens. You were so good at sucking us into reading it almost in one night.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
So, how did you get that skill? How long have you been writing?
Well, I have been writing since I was 11 years old.
11.
I remember as a little kid, finding out about the world and what the world was. And, I realized they expected me to get a job, when I got older. I was expected to make money. And I was like, I don't want a job. And, my mom and dad were always reading books. And I said, well, what's that all about? And, so they told me. And, I started reading myself. And I was reading adult books at a pretty young age, and pretty early on, I said, "This is what I want to do." Because I'd always been telling stories to myself and my parents. I was, that's just what I enjoyed doing. And I said, "Well, this is the thing. I won't have to get a job. I won't have to work for a living. I can just write." And it seemed like a great idea at the time. And so I started my first novel. I didn't finish that novel, but when I was a teenager, I did start a novel that I did finish, and I finished it when I was about 21 and still in school. And then I've been writing ever since, and I've written many novels. And for a while, I was represented by one of the big time New York publishers, or agents, rather. I wish I was represented by a publisher, but I was represented by one of the big New York agents that represents Brandon Sanderson, if you know who that is, and Charlene Harris. The True Blood TV show was based on her books. So a pretty big time agent, and I was represented about 10 years by him, and he wasn't able to get me published. And I said, well, that's okay. I'm going to go off my own and do my own thing, and I did. And I've been an indie writer ever since, and I've been making my living doing that. And it's just amazing that I was a few years ago finally able to quit my day job and just write.
Wow, that's great.
Achieving my childhood dream of not having to work.
Right. Well, you're really working, but it's something you love, so I'm sure it doesn't feel
you're
like
working for yourself, doing something you love.
Definitely. So what does your day look like? What do you do to get into a writing mode? Where do you go? Do you write at 6:30 in the morning? Do you have like a special pen? What gets you in that world?
Yeah, a special pen. No, I'm a child of the computer age, and no, my handwriting is terrible. When I have to sign a book for somebody, I have to practice. It's just yeah, it's brutal. So my day starts like everybody else. I get up and I have some coffee and feed my cats, and 4 cats. It's
Only
a lot
4?
of cats. 4 cats. My stepmother recently passed away, and we got her 2 cats combined with our 2 cats, so now we have 4 cats. But I'm very happy to have. But anyway, so I have coffee and I handle my ads. A big part of writing and being an indie writer is
Mhm.
being on your advertisements. You have to market yourself. You have to see how your ads are doing. So I have coffee and I do my ads, and then I read. And you have to read every day, I think, because that's what gets your writer brain going and gives you something, helps inspire you. And so I read and then I write, and I try to write in the morning, in the late morning or early afternoon, and then after that I'm good for the day. I can go see a movie
Wow.
or take a
That's pretty
walk
good.
or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good that you have a schedule set in there, though. What else inspires you to just create these kind of stories? Like, where do you get the gruesome elements that
uh, I don't know where that comes from. I've always liked horror. I'm a big horror fan. Some of the earliest books I remember enjoying, were Clive Barker and Anne Rice and Dean Koontz and Stephen King. I when I was when I first started reading, it was all like Tom Clancy and Nelson DeMille. As a mainstream techno thrillers and stuff like that. But I quickly gravitated to genre, and that was back in the '80s and late '80s when horror was a big thing.
Mhm.
Interview with the Vampire and Clive Barker and all that was really big. I really loved that, and that made a huge impact on me, and it's just stayed with me. And there's always been a little gruesome component to all of my novels. Even my epic fantasy, has a little touch of horror in there. You know, the orcs aren't nice. And but I don't call them orcs. But anyway,
Yeah,
uh,
that woman they found in the whale had some really gruesome behaviors.
oh yeah, Leona. She is not your typical woman. She's got some special abilities,
She's got some
and
serious issues.
she has some serious issues. Yeah, she is. She looks like a regular woman, but she can change and she can become something else. And she has a strong connection to the sea and to what created the atomic sea in the first place. And as she goes on the journey, we get to see just exactly what she really is. And it's a little terrifying
A little?
and
A little?
a
I
little,
was
little
reading it in the
terrifying.
middle of the night. It was so scary. I was like, I have to read another chapter to get to a good part so I could go to sleep.
Oh, I love writing those chapters. Yeah, when I get to the real Lovecraftian horror part of the story, that's my favorite part to write. And the real weird cosmic horror of it all, and that's just so much fun. When you get the tentacles and the phantasmal flesh, that's the fun part. And ripping people apart. Anyway,
Do
it's
you eat
not
a
it's
lot
not
of fish?
I do not eat a lot of fish. I am a Texan, and I eat barbecue and Mexican food, and exclusively, pretty much, with some pizza thrown in. I love my especially deep dish pizza. But there's not enough deep dish pizza. There needs to be more deep dish pizza.
Okay. That's deep dish pizza and steaks, right?
Yeah, well,
Hamburgers.
yeah, barbecue and Mexican food. I eat a lot of Mexican food. That's like my main meal is Mexican food. That's my default meal is an enchilada or some tacos,
Ah, well, yeah, that could help you come
chilerinos.
up with some gruesome ways to take things apart.
I need to introduce some enchiladas into the world of the atomic sea. I don't know. I don't think I see a lot of Tex-Mex element in the atomic sea, but maybe somewhere.
Yeah, no. But you had a great way of bringing us to like highs and lows on a chase, holding our breath. It's a really great
Thank you,
writing.
thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And
No, I had fun reading it.
yeah, thank you very much. Well, I
It was
hope you
fun.
continue
It
with
was
the sequels.
horrifying.
It was horrifying. Yeah, are you not as much of a horror fan?
I would say that. Yeah, no.
Who is one of your favorite writers? Who do you,
Who
what's your
my favorite?
go-to?
I There's just too many to name. I like every different kind of genre. Like I really enjoyed reading this, and but I wouldn't go out and buy like a Stephen King novel.
Yeah, yeah. I love Stephen
But
King. Stephen King is great.
okay, but
Oh, he doesn't
I
know how to
have
end the
read
story.
some of them just for comparisons. But I would definitely like get the next book in the saga because it's a great storyline, just an
It's supposed to be
interesting
fun.
mix. It was
It
wicked fun.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what I wrote it for. I didn't write it to be to scare you or anything like that. Even those elements are in there, but I primarily wrote it to be a fun story.
Oh,
I
it's
wanted to have
definitely
fun
that.
writing it, and I wanted to entertain my readers and really take them on a roller coaster through this crazy world. And that's what I try to do is take readers on this epic roller coaster. At times it's fun, at times it's scary. At times it's real tense and nerve wracking, and you never know quite what's going to happen. And you're always seeing a different aspect of this world. And then there's so much there's so many cultures and cool elements to this world. Once you get to the Istral Empire, and you have it gets really crazy. The police ride giant octopi, and it rains all the time. This acid, and they have the zeppelins, and then they have the thing and the other thing, and anyway, it's just really really cool. And so I just love this world so much. And you've got the atomic jungle. You get to see how the atomic sea transforms the jungles of this world,
Hmm.
and all sorts of fun places in this world that you get to explore. And I had a great time exploring it, and I hope the readers do too.
Oh, I can't imagine that they don't. It's such a fun, incredible journey that seriously, like it's fun. It has funny moments, but it's like that shock element too, like, you know, did he just say that? But yeah, which made it more fun. I mean, it really kept me going.
Well, you got to keep readers on your toes, on their toes. Yeah, I mean, you don't want readers to get bored.
I know. They won't get bored with this book. Definitely
Thank you
not.
very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, how do you interact with your fans?
Oh, a lot of it on Facebook. I spend way too much time on Facebook. That's the problem. When you don't go to work on a daily basis and you don't have a job, you don't see people as much. You see your friends, and I've got a wife and family. But I kind of miss going to the office and interacting with people every day. It's weird. And yeah, no, it's normal, right? Well, so I go on Facebook, and that's where I get a lot of my social interaction. I get to actually deal with human beings. Kind
There must be some frightening people on Facebook.
of. There are some frightening people on Facebook. There really are. And but I do get to see my fellow writers. I belong to a writers group, and I see them all the time. And I have a lot of friends that are writers. But it is different. I've achieved my childhood dream of not having to go to work for a living, which is awesome. But humans are social creatures, and you do need people. Otherwise you get a little twitchy. You know.
Right, but you're very good with the characters. You really develop them well. It's easy to understand them. It's um, it's done in such a way that you can understand why they made certain decisions later on, or why they did something or acted in a certain way. So the development of the characters was really insightful. So it seems
Thank
like
you
you would
very
know a
much.
lot of different kind of people, especially those sailors and the rough types and the
Oh
fighters.
yeah, those are my favorites. I love Jenks. Jenks is probably my favorite character in the whole series, and he's the whaler. He's this big, tough, bald whaler. His nose had been torn off in a whaling catastrophe years ago, and is covered by a leather patch. Yeah, and
Mm.
he's covered in scars and tattoos.
Yeah, he
Very,
sounded attractive.
very, very, very intimidating looking fellow, but he's a very fun character. He's jovial and sometimes, He's fearless. He's this big brawny guy that's had all these adventures. He's really kind of the Conan character of the story. He's the Conan of the sea. You know, he's had all these crazy adventures. He's been a pirate. He's been a king. He's been a thief. You know, he's had all these myriad adventures upon the atomic sea. And every now and then he'll relate one of his adventures. And sometimes it'll even tie in a little bit to the narrative and or inform the narrative a little bit. And so he was a lot of fun to write about. I just adore Jenks so much, and all the members of the band, you know, Hildra especially, you know, the young woman with the hook for a hand,
Oh yeah,
and her
with
monkey,
the monkey.
yeah, with the monkey, yeah, got to have a monkey. Hildra can't be without her monkey,
I know, that
and
was good. That was a good
yeah, yeah.
twist.
I mean,
So you
and
got the
so
whole carny in there.
yeah, Hildra is very carny. Yeah, she's a total carny character, and you know, adds a lot of color to it. And she's fun because she's my vulgar character. You know, you need somebody that can use foul language. You know, and you know, I think that rounds out the group really well. And I just love her. She's just awesome. But yeah, she's the one that's going to lay you to the daisies and tell it like it is. And she's not going to care what language you use doing it. And
Wow. So how long is the series? How many books total?
9 books total, and I just finished it. It is just finished it a few months ago, and released it. And so the whole series is now live for the first time, and so you can just read them all. Whoever's watching, you can just go and read them all right now. All 9 books of pure adrenaline and crazy world building and fun characters. You owe it to yourself to read the Atomic City.
Definitely. It's a great escape. Thank you.
Free with Kindle Unlimited.
Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's a good one too.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing so much about what you do and how you came up with this dynamic series.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed being on.
That was my pleasure. Until next time, if you want a great series that will really just take you away from it all for a while, this is it. And they're all available now. We'll see you soon.